Hi everyone, Adam here again from Kinetics Physiotherapy. This time we're going to look at a video that's going to cover hamstring injuries again. So I've already covered a video very recently on hamstring injuries. It was a bit more of an information-based video talking through what hamstring injuries are and outlining how long it'll take to get better and what sort of things to expect and do from a pain management point of view, but there's not much in the way of exercises. I touch on mentioning the exercises, but I thought today we'd go through a video that you can follow along. We'll go through a few exercises that you can look at, mostly going to be laying on our back, more bridge-based exercises, and each one will be progressively a little bit more challenging than the last. So with these exercises, we're going to look at 4 bridge variations, which are all sort of revolving around the hamstring, each one progressively a little bit harder. And then the last one is going to be using a band, which is going to look at the hamstring as well, which some people might find a bit more challenging for different reasons. It's probably about in the middle of these exercises. The first 2 probably are the easiest, then the band one in the middle, and then the last 2 will be a little bit harder, targeting those hamstrings. And then we'll look at, I'll mention a couple of other ones that I haven't got the equipment or a partner to help me with that you can do, which are really great hamstring exercises, and we can look at those as well and talk about those. So the first thing to do is make sure you get a TheraBand or a exercise band. I've got one here. We'll use that at the end, and have your mat on the floor and just have enough space here, and have a lay down on your back with your knees bent like this. So what we want to do is put your hands by your side. So when we're doing a bridge, the first thing to do is be able to do a pelvic tilt. So it was one of the exercises I covered in my lower back pain and mobility exercise routine, if you want to have a look at that. But essentially what we want to do is tilting the pelvis so that the back flattens against the floor. So you're imagining you're going to rotate here, push the hips, rotating around like this. So you're flattening and squashing the lower back against the floor, so your back should be flat against the floor here. So if I just show you a pelvic tilt, my hands across my chest so you can see. So I'm going to exaggerate, so you're starting with the lower back off the floor, you can see here, and then you're rotating to squash the lower back against the floor. Or if you want to, if you feel more comfortable, you can do this on the bed. So this, from a hamstring point of view, is straightforward. This isn't one of the exercises, but it's a prerequisite to be able to do a bridge. So if we're looking at the first one, we're looking at the bridge. Have your feet so roughly shoulder width apart. You should be able to touch your feet, so not too far away. Going to go into that pelvic tilt, squash the lower back against the floor, and then you're going to imagine you're peeling the spine off of the floor here until you reach the top. So there should be a straight line from your shoulders all the way down to your knees here, and then slowly come back down, coming down vertebra by vertebra, ending with the back flat on the bed or on the floor, and then coming up again. So nice and controlled, lifting from the hips first, finishing in that straight line position. Try not to arch the back. Going to keep it nice and controlled, engaging your abdominal muscles throughout, pausing at the top, and then slowly rolling back down. So we're going to go through a couple more of these. So leading hips first, all the way to the top, peeling that spine off of the bed or the floor, and then coming back down again. So when we're looking at bridge, or a bridge variation, this does engage the hamstrings, but it's mostly the glutes. It's a little bit of both. So actually, from a hamstring point of view, should be pretty low level. So you should feel that quite comfortable. This would be a good one if you're in the early stages of your hamstring rehab program. It'd be a nice one to add in to start engaging the hamstring. So to build on that, we're going to look at a single leg bridge. So there's 2 variations of this that we'll look at actually, so I'm going to add in an extra one. The first one being exactly the same as before, a normal bridge, so peeling up from the bottom here, and then once you get to the top, shifting your weight onto one leg, straightening leg, coming back down, and then peeling back down again. So really good Pilates exercise as well that's often used. So coming up together, both feet on the floor, and then if you feel alright, swap to the other leg. Try and keep this part of the thigh in line, so it's just straightening the knee. Try not to lift the leg up like this. If you have your leg nice and low, we're engaging the quads on this side as well, so get a bit of extra muscle activation. And lowering yourself down, nice and slowly. Sorry, I should have put my foot down before coming down. So we'll do that one again. So peeling up till you get to the top, then straightening the leg, pause, come back down, and lowering down here. So the next single leg bridge variation will be straightening the leg before we go up. So what we want to do, same starting position, squash that lower back into the bed or onto the floor, engaging those abdominal muscles here, straightening one leg, and then peeling and lifting up here. So this is slightly more challenging, largely because you're just spending more time on one leg. So you keep the leg raised and go through a few repetitions here. So I'll go through 2 or 3 with you. Nice and controlled. So lifting, leading with the hips, pause at the top, and then back down again. You should really feel that starting to fire up around the hamstring, into the glutes, and maybe into the inner thigh a little bit as well, because they're having to stabilise the leg, all of those muscles there. And then once you've done 7 or 8 or so on one leg, then you'd swap over to the other side. So straightening that right leg, starting with the left one, squashing the lower back, lifting up, nice and in control, pause, and then slowly come back down again. Okay. Keep the lower back squashed against the floor, lifting up, keep engaged through your abdominal muscles, and then lowering you back down again. These shouldn't be fast movements. As you can probably tell, they should be slow, nice, controlled movements. Still gets the hamstring loaded, but it's all about that time under tension. Okay? So, with the following, if we're looking at difficulty, the next exercise would be this one with the band, which we'll look at the end. I'll go through the bridge variations first. So there's 2 more bridge variations. So the first one being back to 2 legs. So this is really going to get the hamstrings. This is usually a more intermediate to advanced exercise to add in. So just adjust my mic. Starting in the same position, both legs on the floor, should be able to touch the heels here. And you're going to come up nice and controlled into the top of the bridge. And then what you're going to do is hold. You want to keep the buttocks engaged so that you're lifting the whole time. And then you're going to very slowly walk your feet away from you. The further you get from your body, the more hamstring that becomes involved. Okay, and then slowly walk it back in. So if we're looking at hamstring injuries, what you should be looking at is trying to walk away just until you feel it start to become at most a little bit uncomfortable. It shouldn't be painful. And walking out, and say I hurt my right leg and I got to here and I thought, oh, I can start to feel that. Pause for a count of 3 and then nice and controlled, small steps in. Try to keep the hips engaged or the buttocks engaged the whole time to lift it up. What I don't want to happen is once you've walked out and you come back that you end up in this position here. I want to stay up, abdominal muscles engaged. So we'll do one more together. So very, very slowly, walking out. Probably see me start shaking in a minute. Until you start to feel the hamstrings engaged, you might feel a little bit in the lower back as well. And then slowly walking the hips back in, walking the feet back in towards the hips and keeping those hips lifted as best you can. Have a relax there. So there's one more, which is really good for working sort of outer range hamstrings. So this would be quite a challenging one anyway, regardless of if you have a hamstring injury or not. This is quite high level. So it's very similar. It's the last bridge variation. You start with your legs straight. And essentially, what you're going to do is have your feet that shoulder width apart. Start by trying to engage your abdominal muscles here, and then what you want to do is dig your heels in and lift up. So we're really working that outer range here. Hold for a count of 3, 2, 1, and then lower down here. Have a nice rest. Give your legs a little bit of a shake. Again, engage the muscles here. You probably won't be able to get your back completely flat against the floor, but try and engage those muscles throughout this movement. So engage, lift, hold for 3, 2, 1, and come back down. I don't want to see any arching of the back like this when you're in the up position. If you are doing that, this exercise might just be a little bit too much, a little bit too challenging, in which case go back to the bridge with the walking out. And we'll do one more repetition. So engaging the abdominal muscles, squashing that lower back against the floor, and then we're going to dig the heels in and lift your hips up. Count for 3, 2, 1, and back down. So give their legs a little bit of a shake, probably like mine, hamstrings are a little bit sore. Have a sit up here. So the last exercise is going to be using a band. So if you have one that's already in a loop, fantastic. If you've got one like me that's sort of loose at both ends, I suppose, just tie it around in a loop like so. Nice. It says it's very easy. There we go. So, what you want to do here is attach it around both feet. Have a lay on your front. So, then what you want to do is in this position here, just relax onto your hands and then try and keep one leg straight the whole time. That's going to be your anchor, and the other leg going to try and bend the knee up here. Just go until you feel your hamstrings engaging, or if the hips start to lift. So if I was doing my left side, so the closest to the camera, be lifting it up here. If I start to go any further than about here, probably my hips would start to hitch like this. So we want to make sure that the hips are flat against the bed or flat against the floor. We don't want any rotation here. And you want to lift up here. Just fix my mic here. Lift up here, make sure that pelvis is pushed down against the floor. You can see my hamstring shaking a little bit. Hold for a count of 3, 2, 1, and back down again. So this really highlights how rubbish my hamstrings really are. So I'm going to go again. So bending that knee till the hip starts to lift, or you start to get some shaking in the hamstring, or you feel that that's your limit. Hold for 3, 2, 1, and back down again. And I'm going to do one more with you guys as well. So lifting up till you feel that stretch there, holding for 3, 2, 1, and back down again. So slip that off there and have a seat. So although we only did 3 or 4 repetitions of each exercise, actually we did 5 or 6 exercises, so it's quite a lot for the hamstrings to cope with. And as you can see by the end there with this banded exercise, my hamstrings are starting to struggle a little bit and starting to shake. So if you're struggling from a hamstring injury, that's quite a lot of loading in one go. So I would just do what's comfortable, don't push through any large pain barriers. But I am a physiotherapist, I give out these exercises on a daily basis. But if you've not been seen by anybody and you do think you've got a hamstring strain, before you start doing any exercises, make sure you go and see somebody. Feel free to contact me. I'll leave a link down in the description to my website or Facebook page or any social media platform. You can contact me, especially if you live in the East Sussex area. That's where I'm based, and I'd be happy to see you. But before you start doing any exercises, if you think you've caused an injury, get it checked out by either a doctor or a physiotherapist. But there's one other exercise that's really, really good for hamstrings and preventing hamstring injuries more than anything. And that's called a Nordic hamstring curl, which I'll see if I can find a video, or I'll upload a video at a later date which really demonstrates that well. But essentially, you'll be in a kneeling position, someone holding your ankles there, pushing the hips forwards and coming forwards as far as you can. It's essential to have somebody to hold on to. But anyway, if you found this useful, please leave a like and subscribe, and share this with anyone that might find this really useful. If you have any questions or anything that you want me to cover in the future, please leave it in the comments below, and I'll try to make a video in the future on it. Please share it with everyone you can, so we can try and reach as many people in this lockdown that needs any sort of help from a physio. Alright, thanks everyone, and I will see you in the next video.